Welcome to the project file breakdown video of all time. Today, we're breaking down Dread. Dread is a dubstep song I made with Miss Lina. It's been featured on such channels as mine. Let's get into the breakdown. First of all, we have Miss Lina's vocals.
Surrounded by feelings of dread. Why can't I get these thoughts out of my head?
I think her vocals worked really well for this song because she's good at singing. Fun fact, I actually stole this idea. Danny Demand and I worked on a song about a year ago, and it never went anywhere. And she made vocal chops, and I was like, that's cool. I could come up with my own ideas, or I could steal some from people I've worked with in the past. So here we are. Anyway, let's move on to vocal layers. There's 4 of them. Dry vocal,
Surrounded by feelings of dread.
chorus,
Feelings of dread.
filtered,
Feelings of dread.
and vocodex.
Surrounded by feelings of dread.
Speaking of vocal layers, here's a clock sample. I put that sample in there to signify the passage of time. Time flies by, especially when you're watching YouTube videos. It's important to stop and think every now and then, to look into the mirror and self-reflect. Not a real one. I'm talking about the mirror right in front of you. You're already looking at it. You can see your face. Not all the details, but you know it's you. And ask yourself, do I have all the premium dubstep samples I need? Because if not, my latest dubstep sample pack is out now. That's right, lots of dubstep samples and presets that you can buy. The link is in the comments and description below. Anyway, moving on, we got chords and art. I like the sound design on the art because it's a saw wave and a distort and a feedback. There's also atmosphere. And then the intro reads. These intro synths are routed to a bus that has OTT, the glue, and track spacer. Track spacer is routed to the vocal, so whenever the vocal comes in, the instrument's lower in volume. Okay, now for the next section. Here are the drums. I put a stomp layered with a kick to emphasize the downbeat. For the percussion and hi-hats, I layered a few of them and compressed them with the glue and OTT. Here are the synths. For the melodic layers, we have a sub bass, saw bass, a bass bass, and a blip bloop. So this was kind of fun because I just placed a bunch of vowels and then shifted the formants over time. In the mixer bus, we have OTT and a Valhalla vintage verb for the vocal sweeps. And the best part about this vocal chain is the part I stole from Danny. The distortion sounds really good because, you know, and here it is with it off and on. So to transition from the verse to the build-up, I was like, I gotta remind people they're listening to dubstep. So I put an epic producer moment dubstep brostep growl. For the build-up, we have the usual effects like this thing, which is just like a saw with a frequency shifter going, and we have the generic like whoosh noises and sample pack noises that everyone uses. And the main vocal repeats in the build-up and goes up with the frequency shifter. After the build-up, the pre-drop happens, and that's where the vocal says,
It is time to break out now.
which is weird, because you would think it would say Dread. Write your fan theories in the comments as to why I did that, and I won't answer that. So now let's get to the most important part of the song, the ending. Now that that's taken care of, let's look at the drop. As you can tell, it's dubstep. Let's break down the drums. I'm using a kick I made, and a shark, snare, and reverb tail. And for the hi-hats, I'm using a loop I made, and like one ride cymbal. And a weird thing I added was the song structure MIDI. So I analyzed another song, I put the kicks in orange, the snares in red, the call in green, response in blue, and the pink is just like an ending phrase. And now, serum basses. So I have the typical epic dubstep serum bass. I put it through my own fat rack and a bunch of other plugins. And then I rendered out the track and manually automated the volume on it. Doing this allowed me to have a tighter release. With the added headroom, it felt a bit empty, so I added some layers like wub textures and random stuff for my samples. For the first hit of the drop, I used a Netty and Barely Alive bass. Originally, I had my own sound design, but it wasn't fitting in the mix too well. I ended up just using these two instead. For the background effects, we have a Skybreak and Company loop, and the build-up vocal loop just on repeat. For this next sound, I used a basic serum patch again, but this time I used Isotope RX7 D-Click, and if you set it to output clicks only, it sounds really interesting. And I layered that with a tape stop. Speaking of tape stop, I used this tape stop effect and a reverb fill together, and when layered, it sounds really cool for this fill. Next, I did the typical dubstep thing where I put a mini build-up and then go into the second part of the drop. I had a fake out and mainly used variations of the same sound design from the first drop. And then after the second drop, I transitioned into the breakdown. I really like the breakdown because it starts to sound like real music and not dubstep. Eccentric, also known as 10 Music, was nice enough to record a guitar part for me. It came out really well and really speaks to the emotional depth that music can create when it's not just serum basses. So here's drop 3. I really had fun and just went all out with like new sound design, new rhythms, stuff like that. Typically with dubstep, you can kind of just get away with whatever for the second half of the song. The drop doesn't even have a build-up in the middle. It just keeps playing and then goes into the outro. I made the outro feel like the end of the journey of the song by replaying the vocal at the beginning, but with less filtering so it sounds more emotional and stuff. That's about it for the breakdown. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like, comment what you want to see next, and subscribe, and also check out the sample pack that I just released. Other than that, catch you guys next time.